Welcome to the Faith Geek Podcast. The Faith Geek Podcast is your weekly source for all things current in geek culture. From entertainment to sports, parenting to religion. Be sure to check us out on the web by visiting www.thefaithgeek.com. Now, let us welcome Brent Whetstone and Joe Gerbery.
Again, welcome to the Faith Geek Podcast. This is Brent Whetstone, joined live in studio with Joe Gerbery. And we have a very special guest today on the podcast. We're very excited to welcome Jason Satterlund. Now, Jason's a veteran director and co-writer of the steampunk series The Record Keeper, a highly anticipated and controversial web series which has already won awards for its phenomenal trailer, including a Geeky Award for Best One Shot. The Record Keeper's premiere, previously set for early February 2014, has been put on hold indefinitely as the leadership of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, the group that funded the series, is rethinking its public release due to the discomfort within the church relating to the topics covering the show. Fans across the world are rallying for the series to be released as is. As far as going to set up a Facebook page, Save the Record Keeper, which can be found at www.facebook.com/SaveTRK, and gathering letters of support. Now, early in life, Satterlund developed skills as a storyteller, and this took him around the world on projects as diverse as filming Manta Rays in Hawaii, Street Children in Russia, and Loretta Lynn in a barn. He is the only person ever to conduct a night shoot in the ancient city of Petra, and the first person in America to use film lenses on an HD camera. Satterlund has been telling stories through film for over 25 years. He began his career in Portland, Oregon, working with ad agencies. He moved on to Nashville, Tennessee, where he directed and produced music videos, live events, documentaries, political events, and feature films. After several years in Music City, he turned back to his Northwest roots, continuing his career in Spokane, Washington. Satterlund recently embraced new media as an art form, and the results couldn't be better. In addition to winning a Geeky Award for the Record Keeper trailer, he won a Spirit of Comic-Con Award for Splinter Cell Extraction, a film inspired by Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell video games. Recently returned to his favorite city in the world, Portland, Oregon, Satterlund continues producing and directing feature films, national commercial spots, documentaries, and the occasional gig for Bon Jovi. His clients range from the country of Jordan to the Oak Ridge Boys. In addition to directing, Satterlund also enjoys speaking and teaching at film festivals, universities, and events. Now, Jason, welcome to the Faith Geek Podcast.
Hello.
We're very excited to have you on, and we're very excited about the film series, The Record Keeper. But before we get into that, could you tell us a little bit about your religious background?
Sure, yeah. I grew up kind of had an interesting childhood. My parents divorced when I was younger, and my mom was a really conservative Christian. Grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and I don't know if you know anything about that religion, but it's very, very conservative. You know, no drinking, no dancing, no, it's typical to like Southern Baptist, where it's very
total footloose is basically what you're saying then, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Footloose is right, exactly. But my dad, that I spent the weekends with, was an atheist, so I kind of had this odd, interesting worldview growing up. But I lived with my mom, so that was mainly the worldview that I grew up and embraced, actually.
Cool.
But that upbringing really gave me an eye for. I always wanted to reach my dad, to work on projects and do things that my dad would actually enjoy and, embrace.
That's awesome. So how was the film The Record Keeper conceived?
Well, it was a long gestation process. I've always, even before this project came along, I've always been really fascinated by the world of angels. And if you don't know, if those listening to this, the Record Keeper, in a nutshell, is the history of the world told from the perspective of angels. And so you have all the stories that you know, Noah's Ark and all of that kind of thing, but told from the angelic perspective. Actually, you never even see a human in the entire series unless they are deceased. A little hint there. So I've always been fascinated by the world of angels, and the Bible has very little to say about them. And if you go to a bookstore and look around for books about angels, you won't really find anything in the Christian section. You can only find it in the New Age section.
Right.
I did end up finding one book written by Billy Graham, and in the intro of the book he says, I wanted to preach a sermon about angels, and I was looking for a book about them, and I couldn't find anything, so I wrote one myself. That shows you how few there is. But there is really great information, but very, very little of it out there. And anytime angels had been portrayed in cinema, I always felt like they had done it incorrectly. If Hollywood gets a hold of it, they generally, if you've seen the movie like Michael or City of Angels, the angels are, in the movie Michael, he's down on earth for his last hurrah before he has to go back to heaven. He's down here and doing kind of partying. Basically, the message there is that heaven is not a very good place, and it's kind of a drag, and earth is where it's at. It's a little bit the same in City of Angels, too, where, angels can't feel water, they can't feel wind, and humans have it better. It's the same kind of message. Like, it's kind of a drag to be connected to heaven, and earth is better, which is, we know that's not true. Or they're in horror movies, or you see them as these beings with wings, and they're very, like, almost cardboard. You can't even relate to them at all, which I think we all know that angels are very intelligent, very wise, feeling beings.
Right.
Lucifer convinced a third of them to join him through reason. So they are clearly beings who can talk, and they have emotions and all that. And I wanted to represent that in some sort of film fashion. Years ago, I've always wanted to do this. So I was approached by the Seventh-day Adventist Church to develop it actually started as a book trailer for a book called The Great Controversy, which is probably their flagship book.
Okay.
The Great Controversy basically is a religious history book. It starts at the end of the Bible at about 60 AD, and it continues on through the end of time. And what it does is it chronicles Christianity and where it went. What happened after the Bible ended. Where the Jerusalem is destroyed in the first chapter of the book by the Romans, and then it follows the spread of Christianity, the rise of the Catholic Church, the reformers like Martin Luther, etc., etc., etc.
Now, excuse me, Jason, is the book set from an angelic perspective? Or is it from the human perspective?
No, from a human perspective.
Okay.
It's not even a narrative. It's a history book.
Okay.
So it's not like a work of fiction at all.
Okay.
So they wanted to do a big release of this book, and they wanted me to make a book trailer, which for the budget that they had, a book trailer is like a movie trailer for a book.
Right.
And, it was like asking me to shoot Gladiator for a couple $1,000s, and, each chapter leaps forward hundreds of years, so it's like, I just can't do it. So we went back and forth quite a bit, and they said, well, how about a web series? And I said, well, you still have the same problem. The Great Controversy is not a narrative. It's like making a movie about American history.
Okay.
How would you make a movie about, who's your main character? Where would you even start? It's so big and epic and broad that it would be just impossible to do. You need main characters to care about. So we went back and forth quite a bit, and I tapped back into that idea I'd been working on about angels, and I said, well, how about we tell the story through angels' eyes, because they're main characters we can follow, and we can see how these events affect them. And it was the perfect combination. It worked beautifully well. Oddly enough, though, when we started writing the scripts, we decided who the main characters were. The original concept was angels in therapy, where angels are in war. they're on wartime and they're just seeing these horrific things, and then they come into a counselor and they kind of unload everything they're seeing.
Okay.
I had to watch someone get murdered today, and I just couldn't take it. That kind of thing.
Like the cops and there's a scene. I don't know if you saw the movie or not, but what was the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? The Departed, where like
Yes.
he's in the therapy sessions and stuff like that kind of a thing.
Exactly. Like they're dealing with post-traumatic stress and all kinds
Right.
of things. Yeah. So that was kind of the original pitch. But once I got together with co-creator Rajiv Sagamani and executive producer Garrett Caldwell, who works at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, all three of us, we kind of massaged the idea into the main character then is a record keeper. She is keeping records of mankind's history. And these angels come in and give their interview. That way we can tell all these stories without all the expense of trying to create the flood or create whatever. We can keep it in one office. It's very affordable at that point. And yeah, that way the story was born. But when we went to do the book, we realized that, hey, wait a minute, we're going to introduce these characters at the end of the Bible? Like, we're just going to meet them for the first time? We should start at the beginning. Like, let's make the first episode like at the beginning of time. So, which is what we did. And then we were like, okay, now we can jump to the end. I'm like, wait a minute. We've missed, like, major
Everything,
events.
yeah.
So let's back up. And then by the time we were done writing the whole series, we didn't even get to where the book covered. We got to basically the crucifixion. We covered that arc of time. We do cover the themes mentioned in the book, but we actually, there's just so much great information there that we didn't feel like it would be doing it justice if we just jumped right past all that.
Right. And I think you guys did a good job with capturing the emotion, especially I think it was episode 3, the flood episode.
Yes.
The emotion that the angels were experiencing when all of humanity is being wiped off the face of the earth except for Noah and his family. Like, it was very powerful, the ending of that episode. I had goosebumps throughout the entire thing. But it's really a neat perspective to see it from like that third party witnessing it. But yeah, you guys did a phenomenal job with that.
Thank you.
Now, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I think we've heard these stories so many times that they kind of become, yeah, okay, I know how it ends. Yeah, he gets on the ark and Noah's fine, or whatever story we're covering. I think it kind of loses its effectiveness. So we were looking for a fresh way to reintroduce all this same information.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorites is episode 2, when angels see death for the first time, and they're literally suffering from post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
They're just like soldiers off the battlefield. They cannot process this horrific thing that they're witnessing. Blood screaming when it touches the ground, like the Bible says. That kind of, I don't know of a lot of people who even thought about how horrific that would be.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the whole earth starts to scream at that point, especially, and I think you set this up in the film, that, like, we were never meant to die when we were created. Like, when Adam and Eve were created, they were beings that were going to last forever. And then,
right.
With the original sin that came in, like, death was part of that curse. So it was all new experiences back then for everyone involved, with creation at that point. So I think it was really neat, that second episode too.
Thanks.
Now the Seventh-day Adventist Church, they funded it. Were they also involved like with the production aspect? Like, did you guys have someone on set with you who was tweaking things that they wanted to see, or after the script was written, did you just have like complete reign to do what you needed to do?
No, we were watched pretty close. In fact, I mean, it was even more than that. Garrett Caldwell is, he's the executive producer. He co-wrote all the episodes and was heavily involved. The process that we went through, we had to, first of all, they had to approve the concept, and then we, I think on your website you had a link to the pilot episode, which was shot 2 years ago, because we shot the pilot just to see if it would even work.
Right.
And we just, it was a very, very low budget, so we went out and just tried it, and just to see, what kind of response would we get, and no one really expected much of it. In fact, when the pilot was done, it was presented to a committee, and they literally said, "Wow, we kind of expected this to suck like everything else we do."
Well, the pilot also, like, when I saw the pilot, because a mutual friend of ours actually sent me the pilot, and I was hooked, and I had no idea any of the backstory of this. So I started Googling, trying to find the rest of the episodes. So I think anyone who's seen the pilot, I couldn't imagine why they wouldn't be impressed.
Definitely.
So.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it started from there. Once we had it done, then the fundraising process began, and every script was very closely looked at. We really wanted to be careful that we weren't being blasphemous, that we weren't telling lies, that we were faithful to the material. That was, we all wanted that, and many committees and theologians looked over all the scripts to make sure we were right on.
Right.
And all the way up into production, even through who we cast. And on set, we had Garrett was there every single day, and often, like we would do a, character would walk on and go, "Oh, we got to tweak that, or we got to make sure that this is correct," all the way through. Really, what happened, what has caused some of the controversy within the church. First, I got to say, my hat is completely off to the church for even going this far. It is by far the biggest thing they've ever done. They've never attempted this before, so it's all very new. I think that's kind of part of the issue, that they're being stretched further than they've ever been. So, I do applaud them for that.
Well, this is a big thing for any church, really, to undertake, even a church that's as conservative as the Seventh-day Adventists.
Yes.
I would think it'd be hard for even like a Joel Osteen to really get, a church like that, of that size, of that, I feel like this would be something that they would find kind of hard to get behind. So I can imagine just, their conservative nature of it, was probably pulling on their heartstrings a little bit. So
it has been tough. I mean, you got to remember that all churches, any denomination, is they're a gigantic organization. And I've spent my entire career working for large companies, and large companies, when you get beyond a certain size, they get kind of afraid of offending everybody.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if it's Google or if it's a hospital chain or whatever, they want to make sure that their customers are happy. So when you're creating video projects, you got to make sure you say certain things and not, so a lot of times what happens is film projects end up getting kind of vegetarianized. They get watered down a little bit to make sure that all the bases are covered. It's very rare when you have companies like Apple who just aggressively market and aggressively do things, and with Apple's new computer that they put out with his little trash can where you can't put any expansion cards in it. That kind of aggressive thing does not happen very often. That's rare that a company will do that. A church, when you add in the religious element, it makes it even harder, because now you've got theology that you're battling with, or interpretations of theology, I should say.
Right.
And within the Adventist church, you've got, movies are considered something that you're not supposed to see. So that whole thing has caused a big difficulty. And to be honest, one of the thing that really set this whole thing off was winning the Geeky Award, which to me is completely kind of interesting, because we wanted to create a project that the world wanted to see, that was for general audiences, for everyone to enjoy. And we sent it out to the Geeky Awards. We went up against Stan Lee, a Stan Lee video, and another one directed by Seth Green, and we ended up winning, which totally shocked us all.
That's awesome.
I'm sure we were going to lose. But that kind of, all of a sudden, the leaders of the church were like, "Hey, wait a second, what are we doing at events like this?" I thought, it kind of that's what started the whole thing.
So it kind of startled them that the world was starting to embrace a church project.
Yes.
Which you think would be the opposite of what they would be.
I know. You think they'd be like, yes, we're out there doing it. This is great. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. You've also got the element of people, like I said before, that are, movies are evil, and, why are we using this medium? And, saying movies are evil is like saying money is evil.
Right.
It's an inanimate object. It doesn't have a soul. It can be used for good or bad. So, it's a tool that we can use to do great good. To ignore it is just insane.
Now, is that the general consensus of the church, or is the church really divided? Like, do you have the younger generation coming up that is embracing this kind of media as a means to evangelize? Or is it straight across the board in the Adventist church, like, hey, we're against all forms of film being used for anything?
Actually, it's almost overwhelmingly in support.
Okay.
Most people are totally 100% behind it, and especially in the younger generations. In fact, if you go to the Facebook page, Save the Record Keeper, or Save TRK, multiple colleges, Adventist colleges throughout North America, have created their own videos, completely grassroots. This was not a sponsored movement. Created videos saying, please release this, we love it, this is the kind of film we want to watch and share with our friends, blah, blah, blah. It's been kind of inspiring to me. I've never seen a movement like that happen anywhere in my lifetime.
Right.
Where people independently just rally around. So I just think it's really, really cool. It's just really what you've got is a small number of people in powerful positions who are like, I don't know, we should rethink this. And, if the vice president or whoever, I don't actually know. I'm not involved in these meetings, but I don't know who they are. But when you have some powerful people opposing something, it can stop the wheels.
Right.
And that's kind of where it is.
So now this grassroots movement that's coming up to save the record keeper, are they making any traction within the church? Like, has the church moved at all on their position for this?
I think that they are. I do think their voices have been heard. I know that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails have been sent in to the executive producers who have brought those emails directly into meetings. I do think it's made some effect, because I think if if that had not happened, I would have gotten marching orders by now to kill the project.
Right.
The fact that there's still an ongoing conversation tells me that it is actually working. And
that's good. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it, because I want to see the rest of it.
Right.
It'll get out there one way or another.
So, I guess aside from the Facebook page, what are there any other movements out there where they're trying to get it released? Is there a Twitter campaign going on? Is there a website set up? Is there anything that you, as the writer-director of this, are sponsoring to try and get your project to see the light of day?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not involved in the marketing of it, and because it was a work for hire, I don't actually own the copyright. So
okay.
It's completely up to them on how they market it. There is a Record Keeper Facebook page, although that's mostly an internal marketing thing for other Adventists. It's not really a page for... you can go there and like it if you like. Really, what I've been trying to do is anytime I get any information, I post or tweet about it, which you can follow me on Twitter at Big Puddle Films, my company name. And if you go to YouTube and look up my channel, Big Puddle Films, I do have information there as well, including the teaser, which is currently out.
Okay.
The Record Keeper teaser. If you look for that on YouTube, you can find it on my channel at Big Puddle Films.
And we'll post links to all that for you on our page and on our Facebook for people who are listening.
Yes. But at this point, there's not a website. There's not really anything out there. So it's really kind of been up to just a few of us that are trying our best to get the word out. And I don't know, it's a little bit of an interesting situation. there are distributors that are interested that want to buy the project right off of the church, which I think would be fantastic, actually. But I don't know where those conversations are. I don't even know who the distributors are.
Okay.
But, I think that would be amazing, because getting this into a place like Netflix, which is where we ultimately would like it to go, would be perfect.
Yeah, that would be
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. Like I say, would you, given your preference, would you like to go like the House of Cards or Orange is Black route and just release it all at once? Would you like to meter it out? That's something that I've heard people in the media have conversations about which is the right way, and you being a director producer, which you feel would be the way to go about it? To release it all at once, or do you like the idea of having maybe 2 episodes at a time, or for a week or 2 weeks, and then give it some time to kind of get a groundswell?
I personally like the dole it out a little at a time approach. I mean, that's kind of how we wrote it to be.
Right.
Although it doesn't necessarily kill the project if you release it all at once. I have been told by people that those who have sat and watched all the episodes front to back, they love it, but they also say, wow, there is so much in there, so much information, so much story is coming at you that they kind of need to go back and watch it again, because it's just like they're being hit by so much. So
right.
it's
I admit, that's what I did, and I feel the same way. So you can mark me down as one of those people.
And you only saw 4 episodes.
Right.
And they get better as they go.
That's awesome. Now, given the church's discomfort with the film's outside popularity, do you feel secular support would help or hurt the cause?
I think it would help. Absolutely. And that's what we've gotten a lot of support from. I mean, like the Geeky Awards is a perfect example. The creator, Kristen Packer, that has been a huge proponent of this whole project. I definitely think it helps, especially if they're writing letters into the general conference. I think those letters carry more weight.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely want to, get as many ideas from you as we can to help get this along. So, anything you can give to to our listeners, our followers, as to help this project would be great. So, writing letters and all that stuff is good. So.
Yeah, well, if you could, look at the teaser first, and you can see what the project is, and then if you go to Save the Record Keeper, Save TRK, on the at the top there's a description. With an email address. This is where you write to if you want to support the project.
Gotcha.
That is what you can do.
We'll definitely link that out. So
perfect. Now, I want to go back to your background. So you grew up in a conservative denomination that was anti-film. How exactly did you get into the film industry?
Yeah, that's a really... It was not easy. Probably the toughest thing I've ever done, because I was strongly discouraged from anything related to Hollywood, anything like that. And I did actually go to an Adventist school that had a communications program. I wouldn't call it film school. I learned how to use a camera.
Okay.
But when I got out of school, I was really actually kind of at a disadvantage to everybody else my age. And it took several years for me to even find my way onto a film set. In fact, that's why I moved to Nashville, because I was in Portland, I didn't know anybody, and I had to just move across the country and start over and find a foothold. In fact, the first job I got wasn't even a job. I told a guy, look, don't hire me, don't even make me intern, just let me sit in the room and watch you work. That's
awesome.
And that's how it started. I just literally sat behind an editor and watched him work for several months before he finally put me to work on a job. I think my first job for him was working on a For Him music video.
Okay.
Nice.
That's
old school.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, For Him, and I think it was called The Ride was the name of the song, and
we'll tag it at the end of this. Don't you worry. We'll find it.
It must be online somewhere. We worked I think we worked 20 hours a day for 5 straight days. I think I got paid $50 a day, something like that.
Okay.
That was the first leap into the world of film.
That's awesome. Who would you say is your biggest inspiration as a writer, director?
Oh, man, that is tough. I grew up in the Spielberg era.
Okay.
I grew up... Spielberg was in the height of his career when I was in grade school. That's when Star Wars came out. Not that Spielberg was behind that one, but, E.T., Close Encounters. I was so fascinated by Close Encounters. Jaws, my dad took me to see that for my 9th birthday.
That's cool.
Scared me to death.
I'm sure.
And you don't swim now because of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Indiana Jones, I think, came out when I was in something like 8th grade. So that to me was my childhood, and that kind of magical cinema was what I always wanted to do. And so I would say, as cliche as it sounds, Spielberg has been a huge influence on me. I just loved the worlds that he created. It just, and to this day I still study his movies and look at the way he moves the camera and the way he edits and apply that directly to the projects that I work on.
Cool, that's awesome. I love Spielberg, especially all the Indiana Jones stuff.
Yes, definitely big.
Made me want to be an archaeologist when I was growing up.
So, I have a question. What led to the steampunk setting for the record keeper?
Yeah. Well,
it's just something that that's not. It's something that's more of a niche market basically. And niche setting and something that doesn't really have a lot of mainstream appeal, which you had said they weren't really necessarily looking to be mainstream, so I can understand a little bit, but as steampunk is coming to be more forefront, do you feel like that's something that's going to help it along with getting support and viewership?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Totally, it already has. People who are into steampunk completely love it. Like they can't wait to watch it. Like, oh, it's a steampunk series. I got to check it out. Right. Steampunk, for the listeners who don't know, steampunk is advanced technology in the 1800s. It's steam-powered advanced technology, like Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Into the Sea. You've seen the influence of it in Wild Wild West with Will Smith.
Right.
That movie had it. The Sherlock Holmes movies had it. So you kind of see that. But where we came up with it, it started right at the beginning of the pilot. We were searching for two things. The first question I got asked was, what are they wearing? What are the characters wearing? Which I knew I didn't want to do the flowing robes and the big wings, because to me that seemed just kind of cheesy, and I wanted something that you could touch, that you could feel, and felt very real. And I had no idea. I mean, because we're starting the first episodes at the beginning of time, so the tie had not been invented. Like, are they wearing suits, or the costumer
skinny jeans weren't an idea. Didn't want to go with Chuck Taylors or anything like that.
Right, exactly. They were like, well, are they military? Like, and if they're military, what military? Are we going to go at USA? Like what? It was really tough. And at the same time, we were searching for a location. What does the record keeper's office look like? Is it I didn't want to do the typical view of heaven, which is a foggy floor with the endless white.
Right.
Because it's we'd have to. I knew we were going to spend a lot of time in that room, and I wanted something that the actors could touch and feel, that felt like it was a real place. So I searched and searched and searched for this right location. Where are we going to go? And I ended up going to this. I stumbled across this place that was an old bank vault, like built at the turn of the century, with marble floors, and it had this huge circular vault door. It made of steel, and I thought, that would actually be kind of a cool backdrop. And so I went home and told my wife, I'm like, what if we made the Angels environment like, not necessarily like futuristic or whatever, but like old school, like turn of the century, but still kind of futuristic. And she goes, yeah, that's steampunk. and I'm like, well, what's steampunk? I don't know what that is. She's like, oh, well, let me show you. So we go online and Googled steampunk, and my mind was completely blown. Like, this is perfect. It was absolutely everything that we were looking for. It fits so well the world that we created. You know, it's got that Victorian look, but it's also got that really cool, especially if you get into some diesel punk, which is more road warrior kind of thing. A lot of our bad guys, a lot of our demons are more diesel punk like. It's just awesome, and it opened up so many possibilities for us. So that's kind of where it was born, and it really grew from there. And when we built the set for the full series, I hired a steampunk engineer by Josh Kinsey. You should check out his website, jwkinseyartifice.com. He makes some amazing like steampunk lights and accessories and things like that. He designed our set. We made it and we modeled it right after Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Into the Sea. We wanted it to look like Captain Nemo's headquarters.
That's awesome.
In the Nautilus.
Yeah, I really like the office setting. I said the backdrop kind of reminded me of the doors on Deep Space Nine. I don't know if you're familiar with that, which I'm a huge Trekkie, so that was like, oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, the big wheel.
Yes. Joe's actually Googling that now to pull up his work. Are you currently working on any projects soon to be released? What can we be looking forward to coming out from you?
Well, the Record Keeper has taken up the last year of my life, that was actually supposed to be out in February. So that has been my primary focus. And unfortunately, since it's been delayed, that it has kind of put a little bit of bump in my schedule. I am going to be Splinter Cell Extraction, which is the fan film that I directed. That is actually making the festival circuit now.
Cool.
Since it won Wizard World, it is Wizard World. If you don't know, is a traveling Comic-Con. It goes to, I think it's like 15 cities in the U.S.
Yes.
And so Splinter Cell is now touring with the festival. So if Wizard World is coming to your town, you can check out our fan film, or you can see it on YouTube as well.
We'll be doing our first Wizard World in October down in Columbus, so we're really pumped about doing that.
Oh, cool.
So
cool.
we'll check out Splinter Cell down there.
Definitely.
Yeah, so those are the major things. I did just get back from Micronesia doing a documentary, which was just amazing. I was working with a group that does they do dental care in third world countries.
Wow.
Where there's no dental care available. It's going to be a little fundraising awareness doc about what these guys are doing and the area there in Micronesia.
That's cool.
Yeah, that'll probably come out in a couple months probably. But yeah, those are the main things I've been working on. It's an interesting life, to say the least.
I bet. That's so awesome. Well, we're really excited about the Record Keeper. I know we're actually going to be updating our website as soon as we conclude this podcast with all the information that we put out there with the links to everything, and the links to your work, and some email addresses where people can be writing to, because I definitely I think this is a film that people need to see, both in and outside of the church world.
Yes.
Oh.
Absolutely. And we have... Do you want to do our final question? Or?
Yeah, we have one final question for you. This is actually from our one of our bloggers who actually just made the front page of two of our local papers. She's a professional reporter. Well, will be a professional reporter.
She's a professional reporter. She's as professional as we can get.
Yeah,
so.
She makes us legitimate. But this is the final question that we want to ask you, and I'll let Joe do that.
Since it's my girlfriend.
Yes.
What is your favorite pizza?
Oh man! See, now that I've set this all up with the Adventist background, Adventists are traditionally vegetarian.
Nice.
So I'll just come right out and say my favorite pizza is pepperoni, pineapple, black olives.
Oh, that sounds good.
You see, I do the pepperoni black olives on the regular. I am only a pepperoni person, but I do like black olives. I have not tried pineapple with that. So
and I'm a Hawaiian pizza guy, so the pineapple's right up my alley.
See, we're gonna you've brought us even closer together, Jason.
I'm gonna be ostracized from the church now that they know I eat pepperoni on my pizza, but it's true. The secret's out.
Well, great. Thank you so much for joining us on the Faith Geek Podcast. We really enjoyed having you, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing what comes of the Record Keeper in the future.
Yes, me too. And make sure you stay tuned to my Twitter page, Facebook page, and even YouTube, because I will be putting out updates as I get them. It's still a question mark at this point, but you guys, anybody can reach out to me anytime. Big Puddle Films on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
Awesome.
I'm definitely open to questions and all of that. So
awesome. Thanks again so much, Jason.
No problem. My pleasure.
All right, guys, so you've been listening to the Faith Geek Podcast. This is Brent Watson and Joe Gerber, and we're going to sign off for today. Make sure you check out our website for all the information on the Record Keeper. We'll have the links to follow Jason on Twitter and Facebook as well. Make sure you follow him on Facebook and Twitter. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you back next week.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to the Faith Geek Podcast. The Faith Geek Podcast is brought to you by thefaithgeek.com, your online Christian resource for all things geek culture. Remember, you can always listen to this and any of our archive shows by visiting www.thefaithgeek.com.